Hello people, outboard people, nerds and geeks, including myself. Here's a little update on the $40 Salty Dog junk motor I purchased not too long ago. I want to show you some pictures before I get into the video, because I don't know how to put pictures in an existing YouTube video. I don't think you can with their editor. But anyway, this is the original motor on the left side, and it's the same motor on the right side. What I did is I spent about 2 hours over a few days with stripper, taking the paint off that somebody painted on there. And believe it or not, the stripper doesn't take off the original baked on enamel that Evinrude used. So most times you can get away with it. And I just cleaned it up, just to make it look a little better. It actually looks better in pictures, but it's still much better than the way it looked originally. So that's the first set of pictures I just wanted to share with you. The next picture here is the carburetor when I first separated the bowl, and this is what I saw inside. Full of salt. The original float was all cracked and broken, so I had to replace the float. But I ended up spending maybe an hour on the carburetor cleaning it up. I had to pull out some of the original lead shots to clean out the idle passageways, to clear it all out. I have other carburetors, but again, I could have just slapped another one on. I like the challenge of bringing something that's junk back to life, so I reconditioned the carburetor. I changed the needle and seat, and I put another used float in it, used the same plastic, the same rubber gasket. I had to use a torch to get the high and low speed needles out. They were all stuck in there, and all the butterflies were all stuck on the choke. But everything freed up with a little work. WD-40 and some patience. So that's the carburetor situation. A little wobbly there. Here's another picture of all the salt that came out of the carburetor. I just thought it was kind of funny, so I figured I'd show it to you. You can see the penny in there. It's halfway up the penny. Again, all the salt was in the carburetor, the blocks, and the heads, and if it was like this, I never would have been able to rebuild it. But for some reason, the carburetor just took the brunt of the salt corrosion, which they typically do for some reason. I don't know why. Here's a picture when I first opened the block. You can see the rust on the lower crank journals. I did end up replacing the bottom bearing and the top main bearing on the crank because they were just a little noisy. I could have used them, but I have so many, so I swapped them out. I kept the middle one in there, and I put brand new needles on both connecting rods. I bought new ones on eBay. 15 needles on each crank pin. On this next picture, I'm getting ready to put the block together. I already did the top cylinder, number one, and I'm getting ready to set the needles on the bottom. I use everything from grease, lithium grease. I've used butter. I've used Vaseline. Anything that will hold the bearings, just so it can run, just so you can get it together so they don't fall out all over the place. This next picture, this is the Magneto when I popped the flywheel off. Like I mentioned, the coils were replaced. I used them again. I cleaned them up, wire wheeled them, repainted them, and the points and condensers I changed. I probably could have used them too, but sometimes I even draw a line how far I go with these things. But that's the Magneto right after I popped the flywheel off. Here's the block and primer. I just kind of mocked it up. Just made sure I had all the screws and hardware and everything. Nothing's tight. But just after I primered it, the power head and the recoil. That is the same recoil. I end up using the casing, the casting, and the pulley, and the part of the mechanism. And I did change the rope. The rope was kind of stiff, but I have a roll of it, so I changed the rope. I used self-etching primer on the block, and I ran out of that, so I used a filler primer on the recoil. Another picture here of the original cover after I took off that disgusting paint that was on there. That kind of powdery blue flat color and the dark color on top of the white. The decals are still pretty good underneath all that paint. There was even white paint underneath the dark green paint on the sides, so it kind of protected the decals. I just carefully used a razor blade and I scraped them off as neat as I could. You could actually still read the Evinrude name on it. The other side's not as good, but it's not too bad either. Here's a picture I forgot to insert earlier. So I'm setting up the bearings and put them back inside the block on the crank. You can see the part number 378151, 15 rollers in each set. The cages were in good shape. The original bearings were a little rusty, you know, and slightly pitted. So, you know, for the price I paid for these, I think it was $10 for both sets. I just changed them. All right, this picture is right after I painted the block. I gave it like 3 coats. I didn't go too crazy. And again, there's the original recoil right next to it. I used the pulley and the recoil and part of the, I used the wire mechanism, and I put a new plastic nylon pawl in there. And the clip was missing too, the little C clip. But that's the first picture of it painted. Here's another quick angle. Hopefully it's not too dark. Boy, this picture doesn't do the motor any justice. Anyway, the paint matches. It looks flat, but it's much glossier in real life. So this will be the last picture in this series. I think that's pretty much it. About covered all the bases. So thanks for watching, and hope you enjoy what I'm doing. Subscribe if you like, and I'll keep you posted on when I get this thing running. Probably be in the next video. Talk to you later.